Breaking news! Things are hot behind the scenes at the Miami Dolphins, and Chris Grier is working day and night to make the most of the opportunities for the team. Well, at least that's what we expect from him. If the Miami Dolphins don't make it to the playoffs this year, we'll run out of patience with Grier. He should have left a long time ago, but for some reason, Ross chose to insist on him. There's not much we can do. Let's wait and see. If you agree that Chris Grier should go, hit the like button hard. If possible, write something like this: the Miami Dolphins need changes. They really need changes urgently. Now let's look at the updates and rumors that have come out in the last few hours. The Miami Dolphins are at a crucial crossroads, and a change could change everything. There's growing talk about Minkah Fitzpatrick's possible return to Miami. For those who remember, the Dolphins originally drafted Fitzpatrick in 2018, but after just a few seasons they moved on, trading him to the Pittsburgh Steelers for draft capital. Now, years later, Fitzpatrick has become a multiple-time Pro Bowler and an All-Pro safety. But with Pittsburgh's financial situation getting tough, the question is, could he be on the move again? And if so, should the Dolphins make a move for him? Pittsburgh has invested a lot of money in its defense. Linebackers, defensive ends, corners, and now even veteran cornerback Darius Slay. At some point, they have to make tough choices, and with their quarterback situation in flux, it's becoming increasingly difficult to continue paying top dollar for each position. That's where Miami comes in. Fitzpatrick still has plenty of gas left in the tank, and the Dolphins have a clear need at safety. If the Steelers decide to trade him, Miami might be the most logical landing spot. But let's talk numbers. At this stage in his career, Fitzpatrick probably wouldn't command a first-round pick in a trade. A package of a third and fourth-round pick, or maybe even a second and a fifth-rounder, might get it done. And for Miami, that could be a steal. The Dolphins are armed with 10 draft picks this year, so giving up 2 of them to secure a proven playmaker in the secondary makes a lot of sense. Fitzpatrick already knows the Dolphins' culture and the city. There's no need for a transition period. He'd step in immediately as a leader in the locker room and a difference maker on the field. Even though Fitzpatrick wasn't at his absolute best last year, he was still playing at a very high level. When healthy, he remains a top 5 safety in the league, known for his ball-hawking ability and instincts in coverage. Bringing him back could solidify Miami's secondary, helping them compete in an AFC loaded with elite quarterbacks. And this isn't just about Fitzpatrick. There's also speculation that the Steelers might have to part ways with wide receiver George Pickens. With his contract situation uncertain and his price tag only going up, Pittsburgh may not be willing to commit to him long-term. If the Steelers are thinking about moving on, a deal involving both Fitzpatrick and draft picks could be able, further sweetening the pot for Miami. Then there's the draft. Miami has been focused heavily on bolstering their secondary and offensive line this offseason, but they still have a need at defensive tackle. One name that keeps popping up is Walter Nolan, the former Texas AANDM standout who transferred to Ole Miss and unlocked his full potential. Nolan is a disruptive force in the middle of the line, strong against the run and collapsing the pocket from the inside, a skill that's become increasingly valuable in today's NFL. While his shorter arm length is a bit of a concern, his quickness and raw power make him a potential game changer. Being down to acquire more picks and still securing Nolan is another move that could work in Miami's favor. If they can slide down a few spots in the first round, pick up additional assets, and still land their guy, that's a win. Those extra picks could then be used to either bring in Fitzpatrick or potentially make another big move. Speaking of big moves, we're now at the anniversary of the Dolphins acquiring Tyreek Hill, a trade that immediately put Miami back on the map. Before Hill's arrival, the Dolphins were barely in the national conversation, but after landing him, Miami's offense exploded. Tua Tagovailoa became a Pro Bowler, the team's scoring, and Mike McDaniel looked like an offensive genius. Hill himself proved that he could be the best wide receiver in the league, dominating defenses and nearly breaking 2,000 yards last season. But here's the real question. Has Hill's time in Miami been a true success? If you measure success by impact, then absolutely. Hill has elevated the franchise in every way. The Dolphins became must-watch teams, dangerous offenses in the league, and established themselves as playoff contenders.
However, if you measure success by postseason results, the answer gets murkier. Miami has made the playoffs twice, but has yet to secure a postseason win with Hill. And while injuries have played a role, the reality is that elite wide receivers don't automatically guarantee playoff success. Look around the league. Justin Jefferson, incredible player, but the Vikings haven't dominated. Jamar Chase, one of the best young wideouts, but Cincinnati's success still comes down to their quarterback and defense. Even CD Lamb in Dallas, great numbers, but playoff success has been inconsistent. The point is, while Hill has been everything Miami hoped for, the next step requires more than just a superstar receiver. It requires team-wide consistency, health, and execution in big moments. So, where does that leave Miami now? A move for Fitzpatrick could be the kind of addition that pushes them over the top. If they can make it happen without sacrificing too much draft capital, it's a no-brainer. But even if that deal doesn't go through, the Dolphins are in an interesting position this offseason. They have the draft assets, they have the talent, and they have the urgency to take the next step. What do you think, Dolphins fans? Should Miami pull the trigger on a Minkah Fitzpatrick reunion? Would you be willing to give up a couple of mid-round picks to bring back a playmaker in the secondary? And is trading down in the draft the best move for Miami's long-term success? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Another factor that makes this potential Minkah Fitzpatrick move even more intriguing is the state of Miami's defense heading into next season. The Dolphins' secondary has been a point of focus, especially after dealing with injuries and inconsistent play at times last year. While they have some talent at safety, adding a player of Fitzpatrick's caliber would give them a legitimate difference maker on the back end. And let's not forget, he's not just a good safety, he's a player who can shift the dynamic of a defense. He has a nose for the ball, he forces turnovers, and he's a proven leader. If the Dolphins can bring in Fitzpatrick, it would also take pressure off the cornerbacks, allowing them to play more aggressively knowing they have a reliable presence behind them. Miami has already invested heavily in their pass rush, but having a safety who can capitalize on hurried throws and mistakes is how you create a defense that truly changes games. The formula is simple: build a strong pass rush, lock down the back end, and force quarterbacks into bad decisions. Fitzpatrick helps complete that puzzle. But what if the trade doesn't happen? Where does Miami go from here? One option would be sticking with the current plan and focusing on defensive reinforcements through the draft. If the Dolphins pass on Fitzpatrick, that likely means they're prioritizing youth and cost-effective talent rather than bringing in a veteran with a larger contract. That's where a player like Walter Nolan or another impact defender could become the top target. And then there's the question of Miami's offense. While defense is a big focus right now, we can't ignore the reality that the Dolphins still have areas they need to shore up offensively. One of the biggest storylines last season was Miami's explosive offense and whether it could sustain itself in the postseason. We saw flashes of dominance, but we also saw moments where the offense stalled, especially against top-tier defenses. So let's put this all together. What should the Dolphins' ideal offseason look like? Step 1. Make the call on Minkah Fitzpatrick. If Pittsburgh is willing to move him for a reasonable price, Miami should absolutely make the deal. Dolphins fans, this is where you come in. If you were running Miami's front office, would you pull the trigger on bringing back Minkah Fitzpatrick? Do you think the Dolphins should focus more on building through the draft, or should they be aggressive in making trades? And what do you think the team's biggest priority should be heading into next season?